Hello, and welcome back to the Fine Print Podcast. I'm your host, Zubair,
And I'm your co-host Sani.
and today we have a very first guest on the show, Adam. But before I let Adam introduce himself, well, the reason Adam is here today, go we're going to do something a bit different. Outside of what we've been doing so far, we want to talk about the journey from having a dream or an idea into actually taking the first steps. And the our guest today is a perfect example of kicking into high gear and taking that first step. So, Adam,
Well, thank you very much, both of you, for having me on your podcast. I've obviously been closely supporting, and it's great to see the progress that's been made so far. And I genuinely wish you all the best in the endeavors coming. My name is Adam Lukat, and currently I am let's call it an entrepreneur, although the terminology has been widely rinsed. Um, I'm into just mostly software enabled business. And I've been into e-commerce. At the current time, I'm actually starting a new brand. It's a matcha brand, so I'm quite excited for that.
okay, and we're very excited to actually get into it because I was very tempted to probe you for more information on that, but then we'll get to that. Uh, Sunny?
Let's cue the jingle. The jingle never gets old.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Before we start, let's come back to our challenge from the last episode, Sadie.
Yes, in the last episode, we challenged Zubair openly on air to take the first step, take that leap of faith, and open up his company, Hubly, to the market. And now we shall see the fruits of that challenge.
Well, you did. You did. I did accept the challenge, and I'm happy to report that we have gone live with now a version that I would want you to see.
Mm.
So,
We ended up killing
yeah,
two birds with one stone.
yes.
Mhm.
And I think we did discuss. I think was in our last call that it was instead of waiting for everything to be perfect or to get to where we wanted to, we flipped it around and asked if what we have can be used. So,
Mhm.
in the true spirit of any MVP, do we have the minimum to actually get the core service across? And it turned out that we did. So, off the back of that, we pushed through, and now we're on Apple App Store and Google Play Store.
And have you had any downloads or customers so far?
Now, outside of us, no, because we we didn't want to push it too hard, so we wanted to get it there before creating the buzz around it. So
Well,
now
I,
we're moving on
I,
to
I
putting the
hope
buzz around it.
I hope whoever's watching, and I hope they're in Nottingham, and I hope they order a hubler to come to their house because that way we'll get to see Mr. Zubair in action.
Mr. Zubair, I would like to continue that challenge because it seems like it makes you a doer, not a dreamer. The
Yes.
the fourth thing, which would be we spoke about the Indeed posting to sort of bait people that will be interested in offering services. Just like Sunny, I think in your last episode, how he got his set of first drivers, which was he posted job ads online. It wasn't the most accurate piece of information. Was it misleading? Slightly. Was it effective? Highly. So this with you, I think, thoroughly, and it would be great if you can post an advertisement that entices people to particularly maybe one set of services. So you've got, maybe a dog walker or a house cleaner. House cleaners will probably be very popular. To post a job advertisement that would, fish out anyone looking to earn some extra income within that Nottingham area. Have hubblers at least on your platform. Hubblers being the service providers, and after that, next step directly is print out 1,000 flyers, £75 probably or something, and have it posted on university campuses or in workstations. I don't know how you're going to end up doing it, but you get that first set of hubblers.
That's the core. In terms of hobblers, the persona I have in mind, or the persona I'm really targeting, is that of a student. Because so I had this conversation earlier about the difference between other gig platforms and us. So take Uber, for example. You need a car, you need a driver's license. And so all those things are barriers to actually getting on the platform and starting making money. And then you have TaskRabbit, that's a DUI gig platform. So unless you know how to use a power tool, you won't do well there. So Hubly is different in the sense that it's a no skill, or the barrier to entry is quite low. It's doing things you would ordinarily be doing, but now you're doing it with a chance to make more money, or you can decide to even give your services for free. You're already going to walk your dog and you see your neighbor posting that they need somebody to walk their dog, and just, let's do it.
Yeah, I don't think many people will be rushing to do the free option. even the neighbor, they'll be like, yeah, for you, maybe £2, £3 to walk your dog. But I don't think there's free in the UK.
Well, it's the economy, Sani. We're in a recession.
Yeah. So, Zubair, we're gonna go into today's topic, which is the doing, not the dreaming.
Yes. Even though it's good to dream, but getting stuck on the dreaming is what was it you said last episode about a lot of ideas dying at the pre-seed level? Yeah. So what we're doing today is encouraging you to get to the pre-seed level and see if the idea survives. And as I said, go on.
No, I was just funny enough, I was listening to an audiobook on the way to the airport today, and it's a book by Ryan Holiday, Ego is the Enemy, and it was a chapter on how passion actually kills ideas and businesses, because we get super passionate about an idea, we think about it, we think too deeply into it, we think from start to finish, all the way visualizing the idea working, us making millions of pounds or dollars and this and that, to the point that we somehow have achieved that idea in our heads, and then because we've achieved it already, we're already fantasizing on the yacht we don't own, we kind of just forget that idea or don't go with that idea anymore. So Plato, he quoted Plato that and I'm paraphrasing here, basically said instead of thinking about it too much, you have a great idea, great plan on how you're going to execute that idea, as opposed to what's going to come after the idea, how great the idea is. Just do it, and if it works, it works. You get there. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So
Yeah. So on that note, I think right now Adam is a physical embodiment of that philosophy with his current project. Um, I will let him introduce the project and also the um, more interestingly the story behind how it's come together, including the timeline and how
Oh,
much you've achieved in that time space.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So first of all, let me disagree with you strongly. Dreaming is not okay. Dreaming is set aside for when you're sleeping. Genuinely speaking, because you're dreaming in terms of business or in terms of ambition, you're not achieving, right? So when we talk about a dreamer, what is the point of dreaming? It could be to have a vision. What are you going to do with that vision? If you have nothing to implement, then it's completely pointless. All you're doing is just, hallucinating. So I would like to encourage people to save their dreaming for when they're taking, a nap or when they're sleeping or whatever. But if you're looking to one, either make money or you're looking to create an impact or fulfillment in your life, then you have to start doing. Now, Matcha Street is the current project that we're working on. Being completely honest and transparent, I'm not into matcha. But why am I starting a matcha brand? The idea came from Blank Street. Don't get on my neck about the name similarities or anything. I've already gotten enough of that. But the action of doing requires you to be very aggressive and be very disciplined in terms of the course of actions that you end up taking. What I mean by that is I'm not going to get blindsided by the name sounds similar to an existing name. Now, the reason why I move with this sort of impunity is because I've already checked on Company's House. Company's House has the name available. I secure it. Fantastic. Register my company. You have the domain name, which is very important, matchastreet.co.uk. Very simple. Now, as long as those are available, Instagram handles, TikTok handles, all these things are available. The only thing stopping me is people's idea, people's thought of how the name sounds similar. If I spend maybe 2-3 hours of my day thinking of another name, funny enough, I thought of another name today. A friend of mine mentioned something about a corner, and I was like, Matcha Corner. That would have been so much better because it could be in every corner of every street rather than Matcha Street. It's very similar. But I'm not going to spend time in getting the logos redesigned and all the usernames changed and the PDF documents that we have, the business plans, the feasibilities, whatever it is. I'm not going to spend more time trying to get those redesigned to suit someone's perception of it for a short-term project. The action of doing it requires you to be very intentful. So Matcha Street is meant to be a case study that we're going to use to figure out whether it is profitable to go into either hospitality industry or the coffee industry. Billion-dollar industries, both of them.
So, 1 second. So, give us a little bit insight onto. You mentioned you don't like matcha. So, how guide us on your thought process on how did you come
Arrive
about
at
this
matcha.
idea? Yeah, how did you arrive at this matcha idea that you woke up and you said I'm gonna start Matcha Street.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So essentially, I spent probably about in the last 1 month. I've read the Blank Street case study probably about 6 times or so, and the first time I came across it, I actually was a hypocrite. I dreamt, I didn't do. I was like, this is such a cool idea, but the reality is, on my part, if I spend, if I commit an action on top of every case study I read, I don't know how many businesses I would have, how many ideas I would be pursuing. So it also requires a certain level of discipline to know what ideas are worth going for, you know? So I read the case study the first time and I was like, this is so fantastic. How does such a small business how does such a small business manage to spread so wide within such a short amount of time? And the secret behind it was very simple. They had venture backing. They raised about $67 million from, well, three main venture capitalists and all these asset firms in New York and things like that, which empowered them with the ability to scale very fast. Now, why would a venture firm invest in a coffee brand that is only 6 months old? There are thousands, if not hundreds of thousands or tens of thousands of coffee brands across the world. What makes them so different? What makes them so different, right? And what I believe is Matcha Street had the Instagrammable, appeal. People really want to hop on trends. People want to join what their friends are doing. You have influencers. Influencers, they influence people quite literally. So Matcha Street had that edge over your typical family-owned chain. They might have 2 locations, but they are very reluctant to change. They're not very aggressive towards their adoption of marketing trends. Matcha Street was different. Matcha Street, blank street. God, I don't know how I'm going to do when I keep confusing both the names. Anyways, you have to forgive me. So yeah, I read the case study. Case study is fantastic. And then I let it go. A few days later, this is about 7 days ago now, I was on a train to London with Kabir. And I told Kabir, I looked at a video that showed these 2 brothers on TikTok that were pushing a cart through Times Square, New York. And they were doing fantastic. All they had on was, a shirt, a tie, a white shirt, a tie, and they were pushing a cart through Times Square. Extremely high traffic. People are thirsty. They need something on the go. So they were able to sell really well. And I jokingly told him, Kabir, what if we will enter London and we will go and start pushing a cart through Oxford Street? Kabir, Kabir is very prideful. So he told me straight to my face, serious, no, you'll never catch me doing that. So I said, what if I can get you a store? If I can get a store, would you do it? He said, okay, that I'm down for. I said, okay, no problem. So we immediately, that's when my dreaming stopped and my doing started. I pulled up my phone and I started Googling locations that we could rent. Initially, the idea was a bit more long-term than that. Can we rent a location for 6 months? Usually the leases aren't so, easy. For restaurants and things like that, you can be looking at 10-year leases. They're not like your house rent where you can get 3 months if you're lucky, 6 months usually, and then 12 months if you're unlucky. So it's a long-term commitment. And this is something that we're going into with very little experience. So it is a very risky terrain. But were we willing to do it? Were we willing to commit the time, the resources, the mental capacity in order to pursue this project when we have other projects on the go? And the answer ultimately became a yes. So
what gives you that drive to cross that line between dreaming and doing?
Actually, just before you answer that, let me stack it for you. How do you choose? So you mentioned something about ideas and having the discipline to choose the ones that are going to. So what is your criteria and what is your thought process when you have when you're choosing an idea to? How do you score them? How do you decide which one to go with or not? And what do you do with the ones that you dump?
Okay. We have an idea bank, right? Idea bank is your midpoint, your gray area, your safe zone between what you're pursuing and what you would like to pursue. Sometime today, sometime tomorrow, sometimes in the next year, or sometime in your lifetime. And this is usually between me and Kabir, because Kabir has a lot of ideas, like probably 3 times the ideas I have on a regular basis. And like I said, if you go for every idea that comes through, then you wouldn't be able to actually handle it, right? Now, Zubair, I think you're more like me. Sani is less like me. Sani's biggest project at the moment, I would say, is probably Swift Ride. But he has had the discipline to pioneer Swift Ride and work on a couple other projects on the side. But has he, made Swift Ride redundant? Has he put it aside to focus on the idea that is perhaps maybe more exciting to him? Well, perhaps not. Well, actually not, right? And that's absolutely okay. So for me, the criteria is, one, is it feasible? Because we're going to look at a business. I'm personally currently not into the non-profit organizations, right? I'm in my prime, I would like to believe. So we're here to make money, right? We're open for business. Will it make you money? It's sort of assess it like a pitch deck. You look at the market size. For me, sometimes, you have to be able to spot maybe new markets. I did a Harvard course in entrepreneurship in emerging economies, which the core focus was spotting market gaps. And those market gaps, you can see them when you see trends and you see no supply and you see potential demand. Because if it's a gap in the market, then one, there is no supply and it is all potential demand. Because no one is familiar with it. My apologies. Let me quickly switch to do not disturb, which I'm never on for an hour. Yes.
He's never on do not disturb. There's too many projects. Can't afford.
I'm not missing anything. Anyone can attest to that. I've never been on do not disturb until today. But I'm very familiar with it because everyone close to me uses do not disturb, and it is very annoying. Very annoying.
Yeah, I agree. I have a few people that I know. And by the way, I'm actually looking straight at you, Sammy.
I know,
yeah.
but for me, honestly, I have a good reason, and I only recently started using Do Not Disturb because of all of the finance people trying to extend loans to Swift Ride. I don't know how they got a hold of my number, but I get almost 50 or 60 calls a day, so I can't deal with it.
Change your number.
I can't. My number is tied to so many things. Changing it is a problem. So
yeah, with OTPs now, changing number is no longer.
I'll tell you what, a free idea to add to your idea bank. You start a SaaS, a software as a service, that can detect spam calls and automatically reject them.
So Truecaller.
You have to figure out the way. That is on you to figure out the way to distinguish it between Truecaller and whatever yours is going to be called. Because I sometimes I'm woken up in the morning on the days that I sleep, by maybe 5 a.m. I want to sleep until 9 a.m. By 7:30, someone has just gotten to work and they're spamming me with calls. They don't call you once, they call you maybe 2-3 times. I get those. For me, it's marketing. How can we help you with SEO? It's maybe someone halfway across the world that has some sort of router that has a UK number, and they call me and they're telling me about how their business chill.
If the number doesn't start with 07, I wait for it to ring out and then call you back and then hear the name of the company in the bot and then decide whether or not I'm going to return the call, and then that's it.
Before we segue too far.
Yeah.
So Adam, you mentioned that you identify a problem or a gap in the market, and you also identify if solving that problem will become profitable to you. So you mentioned something just now about the Truecaller, which is the distinguishing yourself. How do you go about distinguishing yourself? For example, Matcha Street now is basically a carbon copy of Blank Street. What is it about you guys that you're going to use in that? Because that is the first thing that VCs ask most entrepreneurs, unless you have a chat GPT idea that nobody has, what is it about you or this company that's different?
A fantastic question, and I agree with you. We're the baby of Blank Street. Literally, it's a carbon copy of it. But our USP, unique selling point, is how we interact with the community. Now, we don't mean that just vaguely. I've actually spent a lot of hours thinking about this. So hear me out. We have a location. I have had the experience of running a pop-up in the past where I found it very difficult to, one, you need capital to rent that pop-up. Two, you need furnishing that suits your business. Three, you need to hire staff. You need to produce an excess amount of inventory that you probably typically have. Four, you need to do a lot of marketing, or is that five? But there's a lot of resources that you need to do, that you need to invest. But that was when I was a small business. And well, we still are a small business, I'll be very honest. And now, how do you capitalize on that knowledge? We're starting a matcha brand. We have got the location, we've got the marketers, we've got we've got the furnishing, the payment systems, because a lot of small businesses, well, a lot of them aren't even registered. Talk less about having payment systems and POS solutions and things like that, which is all an inconvenience to their customer ultimately. So we're providing these small businesses with all that infrastructure. All they need to do is come in with their inventory and display. What that does is it allows people to spend more time within our facility. So if I ever go to Starbucks, which I don't, or any coffee chain, because I don't take coffee, I don't take matcha, I barely take tea. If I ever go to one of them, I usually spend a short amount of time because I'm on the go. There's a certain set of people that go there to work or whatever. I find it very inefficient. I don't see how someone can spend 6 hours working in a busy place that's loud, or you have music or headphones on or whatever. So how do we allow people to spend more time at our shop than, coming in and going out? We give them the opportunity to shop brands or to view creatives' works. So what we have is we're collaborating with small businesses within the community to display their products. So whether it is a clothing brand, or it is a makeup brand, or it's a fragrance line, we're going to display your products. And if you are a creative, perhaps you're into art, we hang your art, on a wall, or we put it up on a canvas where people can come in. If you're really on the go and you have to go, then you have to go. But if you arrive as a customer and you find interest in what is on display, which is a single brand and their products, and ideally the founder there, because if it's a large company, you're never going to get the founder at a small coffee location or somewhere in the world. So, but a small business is able to attend and invest their time and their resources into. There's no one that can sell a brand like its founder. Mm-hmm. So we're inviting these founders to come and sell their brand at the location. This one improves our foot traffic because they are going to invite their entire network. If I'm on display in central London, locations like Hyde Park and Marble Arch and Oxford Street, around that sort of vicinity where there's a ridiculous amount of traffic, I'm going to invite everyone I know to come and see what I'm accomplishing today and help me reach that level of success that I want to, achieve, hopefully. So no other hospitality.
So is it like a duty-free model? You know how in the airports they make you walk through the duty-free, to get to the food court. So you end up like catching some perfume here, left, right, or something before you get to the gate or wherever you're going. Is that the idea, basically?
Yes. So essentially, shop while you sip while you shop. Which means, it just means what it means. The duty-free by the way. Mm-hmm.
What about the skeptics?
Mm-hmm.
So you've gotten me there, but I'm not a tea person.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a matcha person, and so how do you convince me? How do you plan to convert people to try, not even give it a chance, just try it once in your life, just so how are you going to
Have some
how are
blended
you going
grass.
to appeal to how some what?
Some blended grass.
He's not wrong. He's not wrong. There's a reason I for myself. There's a reason
We have a matcha ice cream craze going on here in Atlanta, and there's they mix matcha and vanilla swirl, and it's a thing now, unfortunately.
Have you
So,
tried
it's not
it?
unfortunate. It's very fortunate.
I have a missus, and the missus is into the matcha
Was-
vanilla.
No, it was a simple question. Have you tried it?
I have been forced to try it. Yes,
so Sani has tried matcha ice cream.
I have tried matcha ice cream. Yes,
What would you rate it out of 10?
honestly, it's maybe a 6, but I see why people go there just for the hype, because sort of I don't know, do I call it a restaurant? The shop, the store that sells the ice cream, they have this whole Asian thing going on where you can take off your shoes and sit in these like little booths, and have your matcha ice cream, and they can sprinkle some gold on top of your ice cream as well. So people just go there for all that.
So it's
cultural
the same
experience.
thing. It's the same thing, Adam. It's what I was same thing I saw with Adam's concept. They're both selling. So it sounds to me, to sell matcha, you don't sell matcha, you sell the experience.
You sell a third party experience, apparently.
Yeah.
So they're selling
so
their
you sell the
Asian culture
experience
to
and
you,
then-
but the matcha is just on the side.
Okay. All right.
Right.
Okay.
So, to answer your question, Sani, in the past 7 days that this idea has gone from dreaming to doing, we have spent a lot of time gathering insight into first-time triers. I've only tried matcha once. Did I like the experience? Well, it was okay. I wouldn't go back because I didn't find the right combination I was looking for. I didn't find what I was expecting. I was, severely, overpromised and undersold. So I, since then, which was probably January or February this year, since then I haven't given it another try because I haven't found something that would convince me to go back. Now, what I've analyzed and what I've concluded, my thesis is that matcha is an acquired taste. One, you're not going to enjoy it on the first try. Two, most of those people that try it on the first time don't actually enjoy it. I've asked probably about 10, 11 people, which is a small sample size, but these are all first-time tryers. And I've sent them to different matcha stores to try out different matcha combinations. Nobody has given me, oh my God, it's life-changing. Oh my God, I think I'm obsessed with this now. It's always been, oh wow, well, I thought it was gonna be better because everyone on Instagram is posting it.
I think it's the same idea for coffee, right? Whoever first discovered drinking coffee is nasty, right?
Exactly.
Like the first time drinkers of coffee is like this. Nobody goes like, "Wow, I like this black bitter drink." They have to mix it up and create this culture around it.
Yes, exactly. So
you have to
even with
have
coffee,
a nice
the experience.
Yeah.
You
sit in a nice coffee shop, read a book, whatever. It took years, I think, of cultivating that.
Yeah, the Ottomans made it that. So a coffee for a long time it wasn't desirable until the Ottomans built a culture around it, and now the experience. So it was tied to socialization, to cafes where people catch up, where all the influential people would be, and then therefore that's where everybody would want to be. And then that was how
this is why we have a podcast, because Zubair just be dropping these nuggets of information randomly, like had no idea it came from there.
Yeah, and I heard it on another podcast. One of my favorites, actually, Empire. One of my favorite hosts. Check them out. They tell the best stories.
That's fantastic. I think Sani, you've created a segue for answering my question, and Zubair, you've really hit the nail on the hammer. Hammer on the nail. So, essentially, is I share the exact same idea. Matcha is an acquired taste, and so was coffee. I tried coffee once on a plane, never tried it again because it was bitter and it was horrible. What are you trying to convince me of? I've tried, a couple of lattes back when Starbucks was still a thing. I tried the cool things at the time, and still, it just never got me. It was just not, it wasn't worth it for me. So my target and my goal is to narrow down that steps of acquisition, that acquired taste. How can you shrink it from you have to try this thing 6 times to you're going to love it the first time you try it for such a product? Because this isn't like, clothing, or it's not like a car where the first time you enter, you just know whether you like it or not. And it's not going to change the more times you enter that car. It's not going to change the more times you wear that outfit. It's a lot less likely to. It might, but it's a lot less likely to. So we've done something that is perhaps less conventional, which is matcha is very delicate. One, you have to find the right partner that will supply you with the finest grade matcha. So that matcha, there's its own criteria completely, and we're absolutely aiming for the best. And you have to put a certain quantity. Else, if you put too much matcha, the taste completely changes. Zubair, you take matcha, I think you might be able to confirm whether that is accurate or not. Now, if you're able to put
if you put too much, you taste the grass more.
Absolutely. If matcha tastes like grass, then moo. Oh, then I guess I'm a cow. So we're really trying to key into that. That is also a trend. Yes, I understand that trends aren't sustainable, and they do create a platform for probably investors to be afraid. But we're bootstrapping. We're funding this on our own, which means that there's no room to be thinking about what someone else thinks. It is, do you think it's going to work? And then your relevant, and I make mention of that, relevant stakeholders. Don't let someone that has never started a business, or someone that has no experience, or someone that's never tried matcha, or a combination of all 3 of those, to tell you that what you're doing is not going to work. In the past 7 days, multiple people have told me it's not going to work. Have I listened to them? No. Should I have listened to them? Maybe, but I guess time will tell. So for me, I'm taking on a lot of risks, but I'm using myself as that collateral. What is my collateral? It is my own personal belief. And I don't go around with, arrogance, or I try not to, and say, I have the perfect idea and I completely understand what is best. I do not. I simply do not. I am a student of knowledge, and I do intend to go around and take people's opinions, but I use that opinion and take it with a pinch of salt. So we're trying to shrink the number of steps from trying matcha 6 times to trying matcha the first time, which is by making it a bit more exciting, reducing that grassy taste slightly. We have our original matchas, which if you do want the grassy taste, you can definitely moo a little bit. And if you want to enjoy it and probably savor it for your first time experience, we personalize the matcha making for you. Whether you want it to taste like blueberries and kind of taste like vanilla and then a bit of caramel, okay, we can put that in a cup and actually make that taste nice for you. We have a lot of steps, the types of milks that we're purchasing. In fact, our menu is meant to have four types of milk, but I'm purchasing 10 different types of milk and keep them under the counter in case someone comes and they describe something that's not on the menu. We're able to cater for you. That is what the power of having a small enterprise is able to offer that a big chain wouldn't. A big chain has to be very well, they have to move with scale. We're moving with accuracy before we're able to move with scale. That's why, again, I wanted to invite smaller businesses to collaborate with us rather than invite larger entities. You
And
need to be able to
that's what
tap
I
in.
wanted to ask in as well, before we move forward. For the small businesses that you're inviting, so you're definitely going to be targeting a certain demographic. When it comes to matcha drinkers, I'm gonna just use some uh, deductive reasoning and think that a larger sample size of your audience is going to be women, because they are more agreeable when it comes to drinking things that they see is trendy online and paying absurd prices for them. So, the companies, or sorry, the brands, I guess, or whoever you'd be inviting into your store, did you take into, or like, how do you, for example, gauge who you're going to bring in? Because certainly they have to be interested in these types of things, right?
Fantastic. So again, well, let's first of all look at your statement of, let's say they're supposedly going to be women because they're a bit more impressionable and they have a slightly less, well,
Yeah, because they're more agreeable, right? They see a drink on Instagram and they see one of their favorite personalities drinking it. They force themselves to like it. They would go back and actually do the six tries like you mentioned. But for guys, it's like, I taste this, like tastes like shit. I'm not gonna drink it anymore. I'm not gonna try it anymore. So, I'm not gonna go back to this. And I think I'm not sure what the statistics are, Zubair. Could you look that up? What is the percentage of matcha
Matcha
drinkers
adoption.
gender?
Okay.
it's fantastic that you mentioned that, because women generally, yes, they do happen to be more of the spenders, for whatever notion that is. I wouldn't like to get into that, but
And I don't want any feminists after me in the comments. Like, this is just marketing
Sunny,
psychology.
you've kicked the hornet's nest. So just
uh,
I've kicked the matcha nest.
yeah.
well, that's fine, because this is something that they have preference over. Now, if we're talking about, yes, gender-based interest, it's a very relevant topic. If you're talking about something like sports or football or basketball, yes, definitely there is that imbalance in terms of gender. It's not something that
70
is,
30 to be precise.
well, women like it 70% more.
Yeah.
That is
That
a
And actually,
crazy.
women talk about it 70% of the time more than men. So that means for most of the traffic on social media, it will be women driving it.
That is insane. 70%. That is not a 50, 40, whatever, 49. That is 70-30.
Well, it's a good thing that we're able to assess the target audience. Now, like I said, this is very much of a case study for me. So I'm not using this. I'm not going into this with the most amount of research, because we are looking to put this together to a very high standard within a short amount of time in order to put together a 14-day event that will potentially turn into a sustainable business.
Right. But for it to be successful, I mean, you would probably have to still think, okay, what's my lineup of businesses?
Yes.
70% of your audience would be women. You probably wouldn't line up your stores with I don't know, sports apparel, or, well, I'm
Oh, I,
talking more of like Stephen Curry jerseys for sale, or paintings of him, even though I'm not sure what the statistics are on those. I'm just talking about more men-centered goods. I'm sure you would probably line it up with more either neutral or slightly more female-based stuff. So I'm thinking something like home decorating things, those like mini wooden things that people like to buy, either cactuses in the little vases or what, those trinkets and stuff like that. So
I
I'm
understand
not sure what the thoughts are on that.
I understand what you're saying, and it makes sense from a very holistic point of view. Now, what we're looking at is being able to cater for all, not just yes, we have a target market which we will aim to bring through the doors. However, we're not limiting to what happens to the other 30% of men. How do we cater to them? And then on the other side, if we had men's products,
the 30% of men that take matcha are probably coming with their girlfriends.
Well, that is, don't get yourself cancelled.
And probably the 30% that are drinking matcha are probably interested in feminine things as well.
I would heavily disagree. You have 1 second. You have a matcha drinker right here.
I will also disagree.
Right, Zubair is a matcha drinker.
It's the same thing with coffee. So I think a coffee
Zubair
drinker
doesn't drink matcha outside. He drinks it in his home.
Is that what he told you? Zubair, is that so?
I drink matcha outside as well.
You drink matcha? Okay, Zubair.
I told you don't. It is. You see, that is. I think this is a lesson for us to key in and teach others, because it shows that things aren't always as they seem. You can't take in all that data and the numbers that you read on Google and then go and implement it into a business plan and say this is the only direction you're going because it gives you a higher probability of success. What you need to do is you take that data and you say, okay, how can I involve it into my business where I'm running more efficiently and more effectively, but also be able to cater to the entire 100% of people that walk through my store? Because you never want to have some sort of discrimination that says, okay, I'm selling a product for all, but I'm only trying to improve my profit margins by making sure that women are able to shop. I'll tell you how we now distinguish between the brands that we invite and have them on display at our location. We do that by inviting brands that are highly neutral, or that, like you said, you could try something with your girlfriend, or you can try something with your boyfriend or your wife or your husband or whatever, or your friends. You can come in as 2 groups of guys, or a friend group of guys or women or whatever it is, and you're able to do so. One of the brands that we've invited is a Bahur brand, right? They make incense, and it was a strange idea initially, and I thought to myself for probably about an hour, on and off, how can we incorporate, before I responded to the to putting together the partnership, is how can we incorporate a fragrance line, the Bahur brand, into like a matcha store. It is completely unseen and completely unheard of, but how would we be successful if we're doing what everyone else is doing? We'd be competing too much. You find that gap in the market, you find that thing that people aren't doing. So, we spoke back and forth with the founder, and that's one of the advantages of having small businesses there rather than larger entities. You're able to have conversations with the key decision makers that you are going to be collaborating within the shortcoming weeks. So I had a discussion with her, and we went back and forth, and she told me the idea of putting together a candle making experience. What she has is a fragrance line. It's not a Bahur brand. It is a fragrance line. You can make something that is completely neutral. Now, incense are not something that is limited to gender. Both genders shop it. I'm heavily into it, right? The candle making experience is something that, one, is unique. I don't know any Bahur brands that have candles, but would I buy one? Absolutely. I'm lighting it up anyways. So there isn't like a heat factor. One is
one making one.
Look at that, because one is it doesn't produce an amount of smoke that perhaps might trigger off a fire alarm. But will it give you the scent? Absolutely. So how do you now make it more interacting for your customers? Because like I said, the target is to get these people to spend more time at our stores. If they're not able to, that's fine. But if you come into the store and you're offered a candle making experience, now I absolutely don't mind sponsoring a few free sessions for maybe like larger groups, so that they can now give us some feedback, which we can then implement if we're going into a long-term partnership. But having people come in and spend 20 minutes making a candle, which they can then take home, one, it improves your profit margins. You know, your average purchase value is increasing. You're no longer selling a cup of coffee or a cup of matcha for £5. You're now selling an experience for a bundle of £20. How much is it costing you to put together? Well, it's your job as an entrepreneur to keep that low, and then to keep the value high and the price at an adequate state. You have to give them something that feels or sounds cheaper than the value that they're getting. So they're thinking this is a steal. I'm not saying we deceive them. All I'm saying is it takes a lot of effort to put together something like this. In the last 2 days, I can share my Whoop results with you. I've had, today was the highest amount of sleep I got, which is barely 5 hours. But before that, the day before was 3 hours. Before that, it was 2 hours and a half. And how many hours out of my day have I been traveling in the past 3 days? A lot. So when it comes to the time that we're launching this brand and I decide to charge a price that someone might think is extortionate or might think is, too high, am I going to sit down there and tell them about the past 30 days that I've spent putting together something that I have no knowledge about, taking on all that risk without no investors? It's great that we're not talking about loans, where we're talking straight cash, and we're not even talking about investments that could just go in vain. I'm not able to sit down there and convince them of all these things. So to cut it short, you need to be able to value or provide people with that right amount of value, and the price your price is right under that value level, with giving yourself enough space to make the right adequate amount of profit that will then encourage you to build something better and better every time with continuous improvements.
Okay. Thank you, Adam. I just have 2 questions. One's for Stani and one's for you, Adam. Stani, how do you feel about bubble tea?
How do I feel about bubble tea?
Yeah.
I can tell you I'm not opening a bubble tea business with you. That's what I can tell you from the beginning.
So I think that's my what matcha is to you. That's what bubble tea boba is to me. I do not understand it. I
mean,
just
they're both
I think
they're all of
it's a
them
choking
they're
hazard.
trendy drinks. I think they're just all trendy drinks, It's like that ice cream that like they make out of nitrogen, the liquid nitrogen, where it like blows steam out your mouth and everything. Like it just doesn't make it doesn't make any
Yeah.
sense. Like
Yeah, but
there's no point.
with matcha you can argue the health benefits.
Yeah, sure. I mean, that's everything, right? You can argue health benefits all over the place.
Fair enough, fair enough.
White people tell you, oh, a glass of wine after dinner is good for your heart, but that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah, but
So,
still, well, let me ask Adam the last question. You mentioned something about some discouraging feedback that you received. Can you close us off with just 1 or 2?
and how you deal with that sort of feedback.
That's absolutely fine. I've thought really hard about starting this thing, and I wouldn't have started it if I wasn't thinking really hard. One thing I would like to emphasize on is thinking really hard doesn't mean you have to think really long. My thought process was really hard for 30 seconds, and then I Googled pop up in London, central London. I had over the month before that, I had seen a reasonable amount of studies that could show me that someone else has done it. So if not you, then who? If not now, then when? Those are two very important questions that you need to ask yourself when you have an idea that you think is worth pursuing. Again, my business partner that was right next to me told me he wouldn't do it. If I stopped there, then I wouldn't be potentially sitting on something that I believe would be very, at the least, let's even say the least, it will be an experience for the community, and that is enough for me. I would like it to be more than that, so other communities can experience it as well, and we can turn it into something bigger and bigger every time. But if it doesn't work, as people, might say, then I'm fine with it being an experience with the community. I do hope that it goes beyond that. The second thing is, if I don't like matcha and you don't like matcha, and everyone that you asked hasn't liked matcha the first time, then why would you sell matcha? And then the response to that is, what happens to those who do like matcha? And then what happens to those who you can shorten that acquired taste process from 6 tries to 1 try, and then they become customers of matcha? So I hope that does answer your question. So those are two, very insightful feedback, negative feedback that I've received, and how I'm looking to counter them as well.
Well, definitely fantastic points of view there, and I love the way you tackle and think about things and approach things, and you'll do well for the next segment, which is the book segment. As an individual that me and Zubair definitely have consumed a lot of his content, and we've had the pleasure of reading his bestseller book. I know that phrase has kind of been overused now. I think every book is a bestseller. But Zubair, please introduce our book.
So today's book is by my personal favorites, and I think Sani's go-to motivational.
He's a bit too hard for me.
Really? Nah, he speaks the language just when you need.
I like a good balance with James Clear a little bit, the Atomic Habits guy.
No, I'll take David all day. So the book is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Yes.
And
the callous mind himself.
Yes. And I think as a book, it's, however you think you're having a crappy day or a crappy life, and you read that book, it gives you a perspective shift. Because this is a man that just everything about his life was just, the fact that he wrote that book was just the amount of odds he had to defy to get there, and the mental strength he has is unbelievable. And personally, I enjoyed reading the book a lot, especially when you see how many times he's come close to giving up. And at some point, I did think he was going to give up, but he just bounced right back. And all that he had to figure out was there was a slim chance of success. And that was it. That was enough to bring him into action.
Yeah, but I think what's the most amazing about the book is because we knew him from YouTube and TikTok, it's easy for you to just see him as, oh, this guy is tough, probably was born tough, or, you don't think anything about where somebody came from, but when he shows you that his childhood was as rough as it can get, even rougher than rough. Life in general for him was very
It was
difficult,
super rough.
especially
Yeah.
dealing with a lot of the racism back then as well in the US.
Yeah. I
More
think for
more
him it was a bit. He didn't at the beginning. He didn't realize it was racism until much later, and then it just kind of he didn't. It hit him all at once.
Mhm.
When you start noticing it slowly, he somehow missed it completely until he realized that, oh shit, this is happening. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, that kind of turned his early world upside down. But out of the difficult things he's experienced, that was that was a nice introduction to to all the stuff that he will go through, and he can easily identify that as the beginning of the calcification of his mind.
Yeah, he definitely outlines in detail, I think, what led up to all of that. And uh, if any viewers are still not familiar, David Goggins is America's toughest man. Uh,
Well,
that
world's
is what,
toughest man.
oh, world's toughest man. That's
Yeah,
the title they've assigned to him, or the world's toughest man that we know of. And he's been, I
yeah,
think he's passed two Navy SEAL trainings, right?
yeah. No, two
And
hell weeks.
two Hell Weeks, and he's been through the Rangers and Army, and he's gone through the
Actually,
toughest
he's
of
gone
the tough.
through all three armed forces, I believe.
Yeah, I believe he's been through the Rangers, through the Army, and through the Navy as well.
Yeah,
And he's ran, I think, the world's hottest race, longest race. Yeah, he
yeah. He
does these
drinks marathons
incredible.
for breakfast.
Yeah, yeah, he does
He ran a
incredible.
race where he broke all his toes, and he was still running.
Yeah,
And it's yeah, it's almost unbelievable when you hear the story, but he's actually lived it, and
yeah, it's,
it's
it's unbelievable the way he's the really just the thought process, of how he can keep himself going, how he would just convince himself, okay, one more step, just one more step, and every
yeah,
single time it's always just one more step
yeah.
until he just goes through the entire thing. So
Yeah, yeah. And then he tells you about situations where whatever pain he's going through, he can almost switch it off and live. So you be in a race running on a broken foot, and he's somewhere else.
yeah,
He's
and I
he's
think
he's literally dissociating himself with the physical pain he's feeling.
he almost sometimes even just becomes one with the pain. Like there was a time where I think his kidneys were failing after running for so long, and
Yeah,
he refused to take painkillers because he said, "I earned this pain. This is
yeah, yeah.
you can't take it away from me." So he's definitely a tough sob, and a lot of the book I think really applies to startups and entrepreneurship. I think sometimes it gets that way, especially in early startup life cycle. You feel like you're running on broken toes, and
Yeah.
you can't keep going, but as long as you just keep pushing, one more day, just push your startup one more day, eventually there will come that day that you hit your series A or series B. So
Okay. What would you say your single most important lesson learned from this?
Honestly, it's just that one more step. I cannot stress enough how much I've incorporated that one more step into my life. It's everywhere. It's in the gym, it's in my daily life. It's just one more. Just do one more and just keep going.
Yeah, you
So
make mine sound not important, but mine is stretching.
the stretching.
Yeah. Remember when he got sick and he thought he was dying, and all he
Mhm.
needed to do was stretch?
Oh,
Do you
so
remember?
actually physically stretch.
Physically stretching,
Mhm.
because after reading the book, I kind of went down that rabbit hole and saw the importance of stretching to our longevity,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
how, especially in later age, things like uh, our reactions. When you're falling, when you're young, it's easier for you to quickly react and break your fall.
Mhm.
So even though you fall, it won't be as bad as it would have been if you weren't able to break it. So as you get older, your mobility and your strength reduces, and your reaction time reduces with it too. So things like stretching will keep you will keep you mobile. Uh, will give you the mobility you need to be able to retain those kind of cognitive and balance this thing. And it's done wonders for my recovery.
Yeah, stretching is funny enough. I was at the gym. A friend of mine asked me to come show him how to use some of the machines at the gym yesterday, and I emphasized so much to him. You have to stretch. You have to stretch
Yeah, yeah,
because he's not stretched, and he's an older guy. He hasn't stretched in maybe 20 something years, and you can tell this human being doesn't stretch because he
yeah. So
looks
you have to.
like a baseball bat, there's
Yeah,
nothing
it's the
flexible.
fastest way to get injured.
Yeah.
And so, finally, who would you recommend this book for?
I'd recommend this book to everyone going through a tough time in life. Like if you've hit rock bottom and you think you can't get up and keep going, you need to at least pick up this book or listen to the audiobook, because whatever you're going through, you know, you can get through it. You just need to
Yeah,
take that first step and another one and another one until you
yeah.
get through. Yeah.
So I would go with students and founders, because with yes, students they get bad days, but with founders it gets very dark sometimes. And with the extreme motivation he has, that, and so we see a lot of the motivation on on social media, and he chats a lot of shit, and then he just keeps going, and he swears a lot, and you're
Hmm.
thinking, what gives you the right? But when you read the book, you know that he has earned it. As you said, he earned the pain
Hmm.
from that race. It was just broken completely, but he wanted to feel every bit of it. So he's actually earned what he's saying. So founders, students, and I think if you have the chance, everybody should read the book at least
I
once.
think especially founders that have left their jobs, they're full time, throwing themselves into an idea they believe in. I think they have it the most difficult, because it's, am I gonna make it or not?
Yep.
So we hope we've inspired Adam to read the book as well.
You absolutely have not. But I will take the responsibility that you are giving me,
Well,
and I will take that into my future endeavors. But I
really,
don't.
like matcha is an acquired taste. Maybe we'll try 5 more times. You said 6, right?
Yeah, 6. Now, but Tiny, I think I can convert you with this matcha thing.
Oh no, I mean, I'm always down to try stuff. I told you I have matcha ice cream with my wife, so matcha is not new to me, but
But
I'm not
matcha ice
going
cream is too
to
busy.
go out of my way to find matcha or find boba or coffee. I
Really,
think
not
I'm
even coffee.
yeah, not even coffee. I think I'm pretty
Oh,
satisfied with just regular fruit juice at home, water or tea. I always like a nice cup of just regular tea.
well, it seems I can't save you, Simon. So I'll just let you drown.
Don't save me. I don't want to be saved. Don't save.
All right. Thank you very much, Adam. Tiny. Any last words?
As always, we hope nobody's listening.
Oh no. Now we are hoping people are listening.
Oh, now we're hoping.
Yeah. Now we're hoping they're listening.
People will be
Okay.
listening. People will
Yeah,
be listening. I will make sure
yeah.
of
So
that.
now we're hoping they're listening, and we hope to have added something to whoever is listening and pass it on. Thank you very
Yes,
much.
sir.
Thank you all for having me.
Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for coming.